Hello YouTube, and welcome back to another video. It is me, RainingCardGames. Anyway, we're doing a different type of video today. We are revisiting one of my beloved pet decks, Aliens, with a different twist. We are actually going to be making a tier list. Yeah, we are going to be going on to a tier maker, and we are going to be ranking every single alien card that has ever been printed. Now, before or after or during the video whilst I'm making the list, if there are some younger members of the audience who are trying to comment on my beloved alien cards, well, I do have a couple of choice words for you. Be careful, boy, for you know not of what you speak. I have been playing this game since before you were born. I was there when the first card was written. I have seen battles from bygone eras, the likes of which your mind cannot possibly comprehend. So I advise that you watch your tongue. But don't worry about that. We will be perfectly fine. In either case, before we go ahead and load up Tier Maker and look at all of the, I think it's 42 or plus cards that Alien has over decades worth of time, we, more importantly me, require you to like, comment, and subscribe. Would graciously appreciate that. It helps out the channel, helps out the video, gives me a little serotonin boost. But in either case, you know, get down in discussion. How would you rank these alien cards? Is there anything that you'd agree with, disagree with? You know, let's start a little bit of a discussion down below. In either case, let's take a look at all these alien cards, because there is quite a bit of history here. Alrighty, so we have 5 categories that we are going to be ranking all 40 alien cards that we have on this tier list. At the very bottom, we have Alien Dog Water. Yeah, it's where the card belongs. We're gonna just leave it at that. This is the... yeah. Next tier up, we have E.T.'s Copium. So this is, you know, if you're using these cards, this is probably, if you're going to locals, this is like the back room, basement room where you're dueling. It's like not even table 500 level. You're talking about like the barrels of the bowels of the basement. Like your table 1029, I don't even know, like... you've got to have a crazy reason why you're playing that card in a deck. Our middle categories, maybe an Edison. It's like, you know, it's not that it's a bad effect. It's just that the game has moved to a point where, you know, realistically speaking, maybe Edison format's a better location for it. Solid, I'd say, you know, pretty straightforward. I couldn't come up with like a fancy name. I guess maybe down below in the comments, let me know what would you come up with for that. We'll just make that. But solid, it's a good card and can find its way into a modern alien deck. And then we have Otherworldly. These are cards that are fantastic for the deck. They really, you know, make things happen, make things tick. And in some cases, they have applications in other areas. In either case, let's go ahead and get started. So, Alien Telepath. Ooh. Alien Telepath. This, it's a level 4. Basically, it uses A counters to spot removal for spell and traps. So it's basically an MST. It's a slower MST. It's a cool way to utilize the alien counter mechanic. That being said, I feel Edison. It's not that it's a bad effect. It's just a little too slow. And honestly, if you're talking about spell and trap removal, especially in the modern game, there are spell cards that do it way better than one singular A counter for... or is it 2 A counters? In either case, removing A counters for one singular spell trap pop. And it's 1600 attacks, so it's not even like it's like a big target. I mean, yeah. And in either case, I think in Edison, it finds its happy medium. Alien Mars is interesting. So, This is a really more forward-thinking way to utilize the alien counter mechanic, because basically anything with A counters on it, its effects are negated. That's it. Now, that is a very powerful effect, and there are plenty of ways that the deck can distribute A counters all across the field. So you'd think I'd be putting it up in otherworldly. That being said, I know there are some builds and players where they will utilize Alien Mars, but it's a double-edged sword because it's all monsters with 8 counters. It's reciprocal, which means in some cases you may be stuck on your end with this on the field. The other thing is, in order to make this happen, this monster has 1,000 attack. So sure, maybe my opponent's attack points are negated, or not attack points, their effects are negated. They can just beat over it because it's so weak. So I'm torn between, yes, it's a good effect, but it's just too much. I'm going to put it in Edison again. It's like, I'm sure maybe you can find a way to do it, but I think it's just stats are just what keeps it from being actually good. And you'll see later down in the list, there's another card that basically does its same effect, but a million times better. Crop circles. This is also one of the weirdest effects in Yu-Gi-Oh! Where you're maybe basically can't really resolve it. Yeah, no one plays this card. Crop circles is pay that 2,000, check your deck, but you have to have a target, but otherwise you can't check your deck. It creates some weird ruling situations, so yeah. Crop circle stays in Alien Dogwater. A-Cell recombination device, however, I'm putting in otherworldly. Now, granted, let's put in the caveat, like all these different tiers, this is not tier 0, tier 1, tier 2. This is in the grand scope of aliens as an archetype. And in terms of aliens as an archetype, recombination device is otherworldly because A, it's a way to distribute alien counters, or A counters, so that's really useful. B, it's a foolish burial, so it sets up your graveyard for synergy for other cards, and then you can also banish to search. It does everything for the deck and wholeheartedly deserves its spot up in otherworldly. Next one, Alien Hypno. Cool, you can kind of snatch steal your opponent, but there's one gigantic problem with this monster. In order to use its kind of cool snatch steal effect, it's a Gemini. This deck already has to play so many other cards just to make sure it's functional. I don't have time to special this, normal summon it, or activate Supervise or whatever to facilitate its Gemini effect, so it's in Dogwater. If it weren't a Gemini, if it were just a normal like effect monster, I would, yeah, put it probably in Solid or Edison or Solid. But because it's a Gemini monster, it's down in Dogwater. Brainwashing Beam. So this is a cool, it's actually one of the old original alien cards. It's a trap. So it basically is Crackdown, as long as it has monster has an A counter. What's cool is though you can use effects and you can also attack with it, so that's better than Crackdown in that way. But each turn it loses an A counter, and then when it loses, it goes back to the opponent. But generally, you'll use its effects, or you'll link away with it or do whatever. It's I think at this point it's a little slower now, but I'd say probably Edison format's a good location because it's not a bad effect. It's just, I think Crackdown is that, but also there's another card on this list which is much better than this that does a very similar effect, and we'll get to that in a bit. Alien Shock Trooper, 1900 vanilla. Before a lot of the more modern support, I would probably put it in Solid, honestly, because you just needed names and to facilitate, make something happen. Now, though, with all this new support waves that we've gotten for Alien, I'd probably say in Edison, it's still a very solid choice. Maybe in a very casual sense, you can put it here, but I put it up here in Edison format realistically. Mysterious Triangle, I'm actually putting in Solid. I don't always play Mysterious Triangle as much, depending on what build of Alien I'm going in, but it is a really good way to utilize your opponent's monsters with A counters. It's removal, and it also gets you a monster from the deck. Granted, they're level 4, but we got level 4s that we do want to hit the field. It gets destroyed in the end phase, but You're probably going to use that monster anyway. It's removal that gets you one, so yeah, it's a solid card. Alien Skull. Ooh. I'm not going to put him in Dog Water. I'm going to put him in Copium. It is an archetypal kaiju for level 3s or lowers. So if you're playing a Sprite matchup, yeah, that's a cool way to get rid of Sprite Red, Carrot, you know, but it's level 3. It's so restrictive. If it didn't have that restriction on level, I would say this is a solid choice. Or even maybe otherworldly because it's a searchable kaiju. But it's a level 3. So I'm putting it in Copium. It has some niche applications. But yeah, that's all I'm going to say about that one. And then Yugioh Alien Gray, the, I guess, poster child of the archetype in some ways, because it appears on a lot of card art. I mean, it's right there in Brainwashing Beam. It's a good effect. Flip, you know, the draw, the place an A counter. But notice the key word is flip. So goes an Edison. I know, like, historically it was been played, and I think realistically that's where it belongs in history. It's a good card. And if I'm playing an Edison format, I'll probably include it in my deck. But the modern game has moved so far away from flip monsters to be even relevant. So yeah, it's staying in that Edison tier. Okay, next up, A-Cell Scatterburst. Okay, I'm not going to be too mean to it. I'm going to put it in the ET's Copium. So it's basically, you destroy an alien monster that you control, and you distribute A counters up to its level. So in most cases, let's say realistically, it'll be like a 4 A-cell distribution. There are some niche applications, once again, kind of like Alien Skull, where, you know, if I have let's say I destroy an alien shock trooper, I already have an alien Mars on the field, I distribute 4 counters to all my opponent's monsters, boom, their effects are negated. But it also means I have to neg myself in order to get those A counters. So, yeah. And further down the line, once again, you'll find out that there is a newer card that does a similar effect, but a million times better. So this is just going to burst its way down into ET's Copium. However, the next card, Stealth Buster, is phenomenal and otherworldly. This is and fitting that the card it's right next to in the otherworldly tier is Recombination Device, because this is your primary target for Recombination Device to send. It's a level 4. It's fantastic. It's a light, so that does have light reptile, has some synergies with other reptile archetypes, so you can have that you know, a little bit of synergies there. Distributing the 2 counters once it hits the graveyard, phenomenal. It has the in-graveyard effect where you can banish it, destroy a card that has an A counter on it. So it's also removal. It sets itself up. It can even be played on its own outside of Alien because of that effect. It has so much utility, and it's a 1700 beat stick too, so that comes into play every once in a blue moon. But realistically, that is great. It does everything, and it pairs beautifully with Recombination Device and a couple other cards in the Alien lineup. So all in all, it is an otherworldly tier for Alien. Oh gosh. Next up, Otherworldly A-Zone. That's Dog Water. It's the field spell for the archetype, and it definitely shows its GX aging. It's essentially the A counter effect. Not like, you know, just place A counter, but like the alien effect that a lot of them have is where if it battles a monster with an A counter on it, that monster loses attack based on the number of A counters on it times 300 and defense. It basically applies that effect to everything, because not all the alien monsters have that A counter effect. So this is a way to give it to them, but that effect is very negligible. And realistically speaking, you know, you're battling with monsters that would already have that effect, or you just don't even need it because you've cleared the field through other means. If we do get a retrain of new alien cards, Konami, please retrain the field spell. You can keep that effect because it's one sentence of text. You can add something else, like I don't know, you have Otherworld, you could have Ephemeral World or something. Just give it a good effect besides the standard A counter battle effect. Yeah, it belongs in the dog water. Next up, the Movie Boy. This is another symptom of Cyberdark Impact. It's the shifting alien invader, the column mechanic. This is the Senate switch of the archetype, and it belongs in alien dog water because cool, I don't really need a monster that moves around a little bit. Aliens never really needed the column mechanic in the first place. So why start now? Or in this case, I guess back in the GX era, but I digress. But next card is actually... Oh, this is solid. Very solid, but at the top of solid. Alien Kid. Alone, its effect is okay. It's a light reptile, so there's that synergy there. It just passively places A counters on all of the opponent's special summoned monsters. That's pretty good. You have to set it up. There are luckily ways that you can set it up. And it's been around since the Synchro era, so it's been around a bit, and it's another solid choice if you want to send off of the recombination device so you can have future setup plays, or you can actually search it out, which is really neat. On its own, it doesn't do too much. It does have the battle A counter effect too, so that can come into play occasionally, but realistically speaking, I'd just say it's a solid inclusion. You want to have at least minimum 2 or up to 3 in your deck if you're playing Alien. And another one that actually pairs with it, and I'm going to put it down in the solid category, is everybody's favorite boy. It's Alien Dog. It's a great extender, places 2 A counters, and it can help you with Link or Synchro plays. All in all, it's just a solid inclusion, and yeah, I cannot see why you would not put it in solid. I still play it in the modern Alien builds too, so it's great. Ooh, interdimensional warp. So this is the in-archetype creature swap. It's cool because it's non-conditional. Like, you know, you can choose. But it's still too slow. And I feel like I'd rather play other cards than giving my opponent something and switching out. Like, I'd just rather Brainwashing Beam it or just dealing it outright and removing it. But it's still a good card. You know, creature swap, but where you get to choose all the factors is pretty good. Code A Ancient Ruins is solid. It's a continuous spell. You know, every time an alien's destroyed, you place counters on it. You can remove 2 counters from it to special summon an alien from the graveyard. It's a soft once per turn, so you can reuse that multiple times if you know how. And actually, one of the next cards on the list is the way that you can use it. It's not an auto include. You can obviously don't have to. I definitely would at least consider one because, you know, it's just a good way to spam and abuse to build up your board a little bit. I'd say it's just a solid inclusion. And it goes great with Cosmic Fortress Golgar, which is another solid inclusion. Actually, I'm going to bump you up to here and we'll bump you down to here. Cosmic Fortress Golgar is the archetypal synchro. Level 5, easy to make, especially with a lot of level 4s in the deck and our level 1 tuner that we'll get to later on. It's a way to reuse Code A Ancient Runes because it can bounce continuous spell and traps to the hands on either side of the field, and then you can place A counters based on how many you bounce. So it can create A counters. Then the second effect is you can remove 2 A counters and destroy a card on the field. It's targeted destruction, but it is any card, whether it's back row or monster, set or not set. And it's also a way that you can reuse Code A Ancient Runes to special summon again and utilize its effect multiple times. It's just a solid inclusion, and it's a 2600 for a level 5. That is pretty good. So, yeah, solid inclusion, definitely need it, and also looks phenomenal in Ultimate Rare. And next up, ooh, so I'm going to put this in solid. Remember how we talked about Brainwashing Beam? Mass Hypnosis is the better version of it. So trap card, you flip, you can target or take control of up to 3 monsters on my opponent's field that have A counters. They are mine. I can use their effects. I can attack with them. They go back at the end it's only a 1-turn take, but it's up to 3 monsters. So if my opponent has 3 monsters that all have A counters, let's say I can just, bait out one of their negates. Let's say they have a Baronne, the Fleur, and then so that which can potentially negate my first effect. Cool, I get rid of the Omni negate. Now I can go ahead and safely activate Mass Hypnosis to take control. It does take a little bit of setup, but I know there are ways that you can definitely facilitate that setup to devastate and then do link plays, synchro plays, Xyz plays. It just has a lot of potential in it, where I think it's a solid card. Solid inclusion, not necessarily needed, but you can still warrant it in a modern format. Okay, so Cell Explosion Virus. This is an archetypal mirror force, for the condition that a monster with an A cell has to attack and then you destroy all it's Copium. It's neat. The history behind it's because Mirror's Force was banned at the time, so this is a way that you could play Mirror Force if you're playing Alien. I'll move it up a little. It'll be at the top of Copium. It has, like, a very niche application, but there, just play at this point. Just play Mirror Force. Even in like older formats like Edison, there are better cards that you can play. So yeah, it's just a funky trap that it lives in the archetype. Now another funky card in the best way possible is this guy. Cosmic Slicer Zerol. This card is phenomenal. It does everything. It gives you a viable win condition for aliens and actually also reptiles in general. So it has this search effect, add a card that places or utilizes a counter, so it can search out Alien Kid, it can search out other cards, and then it can remove 2 to normal summon. So let's say you search Alien Kid, you can normal summon Alien Kid. Again, extra normal summon. You can search out Recombination Device. You can search out so many different cards. And then whenever a monster is summoned that then has an A counter on it, it goes to defense position and its effects are negated. It basically turns A counters into what Alien Mars does, but better because it's only on your opponent's side of the field. It's not reciprocal. And it has a good attack stat at 2600. It's a 3 material and it just takes 2+ reptiles. So it can be easily made in the deck and in other decks as well. I know there's a lot of reptile pile decks that will include Cosmic Slicer Zerol. So it does everything for the deck and gives it a viable game plan. Yes, it's kind of like, ooh, it's a Baguska, but hey, they got to use A counters somehow to be cool. So yeah, solid inclusion. Next up, ooh, Alien Warrior. So this is a really cool card. I would have. Now I'm gonna put him at the top of maybe an Edison. It used to be one of the better targets that you could send from Recombination Device because you didn't have Stealth Buster. Because, if it's, or also if you just set it, if it's destroyed by battle, you place 2 A counters. Why'd that fall over? Anyway, it gets, it places 2 A counters. It has the battle ace counter battle effect. So, it can get over stuff if need be. Also looks phenomenal in Ultimate Rare. But the effect is unfortunately fell victim to the endless wheel of time. So I think, Edison, solid inclusion. Also, if you're playing all those different cards, especially with the ulti and that beautiful shine, fantastic. But yeah, it's just, I think it's time has passed in the modern game, unfortunately, but yeah. Ooh, Alien Brain. Yeah, this is once again, probably I'm going to put a bottom, maybe Edison. Reptile gets destroyed. What's cool is it's Reptile, so it's not exclusive to aliens. Reptile destroyed, take control of that monster. It's too slow. It's a battle trap. So, once again, same thing as basically in everything Edison. If the game were slower, it'd be okay. Cosmic Horror Gangiel. This is the quote-unquote first boss monster for the deck. Top of Copium. It's a level 7. But what's neat is you can, if you're tributing an opponent's monster with an A counter, you can only summon, you can tribute summon it for 1 tribute. And it has the A counter battle effect. That's it. Yeah, that thing is what, 2700 attack? It's not, it's there. It's a monster. It's also the baby version that you see on the field spell. But it's just not enough. It's just not enough. I wish it could be better, but oh well. In either case, you know, back room of locals in the basement. Alien Mother is a little bit better. It's kind of like a Goyo Guardian, where if it destroys a monster with an A counter, you can take control of it. She's only 2300 attack though. Right, you can, and you have to tribute summon her with 1 tribute, so it's not terrible. It's better than Cope. I'm gonna put it at bottom of maybe an Edison. It's like I can see facilities for her that can work as an old school boss, but it's not quite there yet. The snatch, because obviously, like in Edison format, you know, Goyo Garden is a phenomenal card, similar effect. But ultimately, why would you be playing Alien Mother when you could be playing Goyo Guardian? But it still has some utility, so I'm gonna leave it at that. Orbital Bombardment. Bottom of Copium. This is it's spell and trap removal, so that's cool. Not really searchable per se, and you have to send your monster. You send an alien to destroy 1 single trap, spell trap on the field. It's MST with a downside, which is once again a case with a lot of these cards. Yeah, you're negging yourself, similar to, you know, Scatterburst. You have to neg yourself, so it's copium, but at least it does something positive. Top of solid. Maybe a little biased on my part because I really do like Alien Ammonite. But Alien Ammonite is your go-to tuner. It is level 1. Normal summon it. Special summon a level 4 or lower alien from the graveyard. Boom. You have instant ability to synchro up into Golgar. You have 2 monsters that you can use for a link summon. That is phenomenal. What's also cool is, let's say you normal summon the Ammonite, you special summon the Stealth Buster, and you haven't used one of its effects. It's a way to proc those effects. Yeah, it's great. And granted, the monster is destroyed at the end phase, so let's say for some reason you're unable to synchro summon it. It gets destroyed. That does at least have some work with the Code Ancient Runes. So all in all, solid choice. Solid, solid, solid. Not otherworldly, because it does require some setup, but phenomenal. Ooh. I'm putting this at the bottom of otherworldly. Planet Pollutant Virus. Either top of solid or bottom of otherworldly, but Planet Pollutant Virus, searchable by Cosmic Slicer Zero, by the way. It basically, you tribute an alien monster that you control, and then you destroy all monsters your opponent controls. But then, for the next 3 turns, place an A counter, so very similar to Kid's effect, but it doesn't matter if they're normal or special summon. Any monster that is summoned to your opponent's field, they get an A counter. So it basically helps facilitate Zerol. And this is one of the old, this is like a Synchro era card. I believe this came out in Absolute Power Force, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, I love this card. And also lore-wise, it's really cool. So if you notice, those are the A cells that are in the city. That happens to be in Mysterious Triangle. And Mysterious Triangle is kind of like the aftermath, if you ever looked carefully at that. You have the city in that triangular shape, and you have, it looks like a bunch of cosmic horror gangiels that are running into the city like big kaijus. So this is kind of like, you know, the invasion force preparing. Ooh. Anyway, I digress. Yeah, solid card, amazing card. Ooh, Detonator Cell A. Edison. Maybe that's me, just how my brains think about it. So basically, it's you activate the trap, you destroy a monster with an 8 counter on it. And then each player takes 1,000. So it's removal. You're not destroying your monster, so kind of like Orbital Bombardment, but it's a 1-for-1 with setup. Like, it's the trade is a 1-for-1 with setup. So slower format, maybe. Actually, I probably... Yeah. Maybe Edison, but towards the bottom of Edison, bordering on ET's Copium. So, let's leave it at that. Okay. Interplanetary Invader A. This is on theme with Alien in terms of design. Actually doesn't have to do anything with A counters or Alien, like in terms of the archetypal name, but it is a part of the archetype in terms of lore. It's dog water. Yeah. It basically, your opponent has, if this face-up card is attacked and destroyed, you take control of that opponent's monster at the end of the battle phase. It's a level 1, I think it's 0 attack. Basically, your opponent has to willingly attack this card in order for you to take its monster. Granted, I know Yu-Gi-Oh players do not read, but come on. It's not even searchable. I mean, you can search it with other cards like Feral, the King of the Feral Imps, but why would you? You could 1-for-1 it out. Like, why would you? It's not that you can attack. You can crash. You have to be attacked. So, yeah, no. Alien Psychic. So when it's normal or flipped, it's turned to defense positions. Level 1. No attack defense. It's similar to Mars, but instead of effects being negated, monsters with A counters can attack. Maybe you could have made something work out in the GX era with it, but even then, there are better cards that you could be playing. It's cool, though. You can kind of use the A counters as a way to lock up the duel, and then, you know, maybe eventually use a way to take control of the brainwashing beam so you can tribute summon a Gongil. There are better cards, is this quick and easy answer. And yeah, there are better things. There are better level 1s in the deck, like Ammonite, than Psychic. Now, Alien Warlord. Warlord, Overlord. In either case, he's phenomenal. He's solid. I would put him up top because he is a level 6. You can special summon him by removing 2 A counters, and then also you can place an A counter on all your opponent's monsters. As just like, you know, place, boom. So you can potentially replenish the A counters that you removed from the field. Has that battle effect, but more importantly, it's just an easy monster that you can get out. It's level 6, so that opens up some potential synchro plays if you're playing different tuners, or just like your basic level 7 synchro line. But all in all, solid card. I'd say at 1, it's probably good. Flying Saucer Musuki. Or Musaki. I don't know. There's the little comment in the... It's a level 5 machine. This is the flying saucer that all these aliens have come in. Yeah. Level 5. Machine. Does not list the name alien in its title. So you can't really search it. Now, if it's tributes, you have to first tribute summon, and then instead of conducting your normal draw, you basically place an alien. You basically get to, for each of your draws, draw the alien that you want. That's a cool effect. Takes way too much setup to do. And honestly, there are way better ways you can do, like recombination device. So much better. Way easier to set up. Actually gets you what you want. Not even in a slow format. An older format. It's not happening. Invasive alien species. This is... I'm going to put it in the solid category. So this is a newer card, actually came out. It's not per se, the way thematically it was designed, it's not really an alien card, but it is in some other sense because it has the word alien in its name. And it's a reptile, so it fits in the line. Now, what's cool about this card is it's field spell reliant. All its effects are based on field spells. Like, it can't be destroyed by battle or card effect if your opponent controls a field spell. It can special summon itself from the graveyard if your opponent controls a field spell. It's can gain attack. It's got utility and extension capabilities. But I'd say it's the bottom of the solid tier just because it doesn't fully blend with the aliens. Like, obviously, if I normal summon this, I can special summon Dog. It can be summoned off of Ammonite. It has some utility, but there are better level 4s than IAS. A-Cell Incubator is interesting. I would put it, in an Edison, it's up there in the upper tier, probably move you above here. It's a way to, keep A-cells in circulation. It's a little slow, so, each time an A-cell is used, you can place one on here. So let's say if I remove an A-cell off of Codex Ancient Runes, I place one A-cell on here. So that way we'll still have a supply of A-cells to utilize effects. If I want to special summon, if I wanted to remove to destroy, and then if it happens to be destroyed, I can distribute those A counters. But it's a little slow, but it's pretty good on in more slower format like Edison. Maybe a one of in a more modern deck, but even then that would be a bit of a stretch. Okay, A-cell breeding device on the other hand. Yeah, it's same thing, but on the opposite end of the Edison tier. But even then, oh man, there are better ways to. You know what? Yeah, no, I'm gonna actually put it in the ET Scopium because during the standby phases, you place one A counter on one of your opponent's monsters, so it's one. Granted, it's continuous, so it keeps on happening, but there are cards that can place one A counter on one monster, and there are better ways to do it than, the one at a time in such a slow way. So yeah, you catch that in the basement of your local card shop. Corruption Cell A. This is a very simple spell card that just says you get to place one A counter on a monster. I mean, it has an effect, but it's not searchable. I guess technically it is searchable with Zero, but why? Like I said, there's so many more better utility cards that will do that effect, that actually make stuff happen. And it's just a normal, it's just a spell card. I digress. Alien Shock Trooper M-Frame, however, I am putting up in Otherworldly. So, extra deck card, Link Monster, retrain a regular Shock Trooper. This card is phenomenal and does such a better job of distributing A counters than all of the other ones that we've talked about previously, like Corruption Cell A. Basically, I discard a card. I can place A counters up to that monster's level. Doesn't even have to be an alien monster. It just has to be a monster. So that's cool. It can also, help, let's say I discard Stealth Buster. I can then use Stealth Buster's graveyard effect because I already have distributed A counter, so I can remove, banish it, pop card. If it happens to be destroyed, I then can special summon any number of reptile monsters up to the number of monsters that my opponent has with A counter, so it can replenish itself potentially even more. So it can even potentially plus me if it gets destroyed. It's all in all phenomenal and just a great way, and it synergizes so well with many cards like Mass Hypnosis as well. That's how one way that I can get 3 monsters with 3 A counters that I can then take control of. So all in all, solid inclusion in the modern waves of support. And to round things out, Alien Hunter. This is... We're going to end in a ET Scopium. It is basically, if it destroys a monster with an A counter, it can make a second attack. It's a 1600. If it were 1900, I'd say, okay, that's maybe an Edison Tekken, but it's not strong enough. It's a water, interestingly, too. But once again, I'd rather, you know, take control of it or do something else with those A counters. Just, it's a little too not enough, which is the case with a lot of ET's Copian. It's just not doing enough for the archetypes game plan in general. A little more than dog water, a little more, because it actually does something useful, but just a little too not impactful enough. And that's actually going to be all of the 40 alien cards that we've gone through. There are some definitely otherworldly hits. Not too many, but there are some. A lot of solid inclusions. Some Edison format ones, and that might be something I might just dive into. What would an because I have a rough, actually no, not a rough. I know I do have an Edison version of an alien deck. There's the stuff that you'd see me playing in the basement at locals, and there's stuff that maybe if I'm doing some kind of random YouTube challenge, I'd say I'm trying to play aliens with only a bad deck. You know what? Let me know down below in the comments. Would you like to see me trying to play an alien deck without any of the otherworldly or solid cards? Only maybe the Edison, ET's Copium, and Dogwater. But in either case, yeah, that's going to do it for the tier list. Let me know down below in the comments, what do you think of my ranking of all the alien cards from the entire archetype? Were there any that you would potentially move higher or lower? I'd love to hear your thoughts down below in the comments, but that is going to do it for this video. Thank you so much for tuning in. I know this is actually the very first kind of tier video that I've ever made. Let me know if you'd like to see some other of these tier lists from other decks that I would consider either a pet deck or that I'm known for based on a series that I've done. I'd love to hear it down below in the comments. Anyway, I will catch you all in the next video.